And crime and violence must stop.
Good morning to everybody. Thanks for tuning back again. It is the end of the morning inside of Nicardo Media House. Thanks for being here again. You understand? Good day to everybody. Good day to the new viewers. Thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time, catching up with Nicardo Media House Channel and the morning inside. I'm here again, ready for job. The reaction and my initial thoughts, around the Gold Cup. Yeah, we are in Group C, and I predicted yesterday. I will get into that as usual. You understand? But right after this, I will get into it and ready to talk about the Gold Cup Group C. The Gold Cup is here. The final three teams are here to face off with the Reggae Boyz.
Gray plays it through. Here's Bell. Darren buries it for Jamaica. This is good football here from Jamaica. Flemings makes a couple defenders miss. Junior Flemings.
Look, I did that video, man. I did that video yesterday, and I talk about that Group C, and I give my prediction and which teams will be in the group stage with the Reggae Boyz. And I said that we will be in the group that the Panamanians were seeded in. They're seeded in Group C, and I predict Guadeloupe, I predict El Salvador, and I predict Panama. And guess what? They flipped it around and changed it from Guatemala. Not saying they made a mistake. I'm just saying pertain to what I predict in the first part. And I mean, this is what I said in the first part. In the video yesterday that I did to happen. Later today, my Gold Cup prediction draw. I think when you look at it, Panama, they said it's seeded. I think in group. Is it Group C? Panama seeded. The Reggae Boyz, is in Part 2, and I think this is my prediction, and this is what I think. Panama, Jamaica, El Salvador, and Guadeloupe will be in that zone. So look, I got two teams right, out of the three teams that I think the Reggae Boyz will face off in the Gold Cup, Group C, in the group stage. And I must say, I'm a little bit happy about that. I'm a little bit happy with myself, almost get that 100% correctly, that prediction. But but moving on. But look, big man thing now. Get to action. The real thing. The Gold Cup. it's final here. The group stage are final here. It sets. Look, I love it. I think my initial thoughts. When I think there's something special with us and this Panamanian teams. It seems like over the last couple of years, we continue to play them. But I know it's been a while since we haven't played them in our Gold Cup. But we played them a few times now. But when I look at it, it's a tough zone. Look, it's a tough zone. Don't forget about it that the Guadeloupe, the Guatemala, we have Guatemala to face before we face off with them in the Gold Cup. Don't forget that as well. So it will be a tough team. Play Guatemala twice in the space of a month or two. It's going to be tough as usual. But I think this group stage, coming up with Panama, Guadeloupe, and Guatemala, it's a tougher zone than what we faced in the last couple of years in the last Gold Cup in 2023 versus St. Kitts, versus Trinidad and Tobago, and versus a C/B team, US men's national team. And I said, going into the World Cup qualifiers, and then going into the Gold Cup, and then we will go into a final preparation, the quest to qualify for that FIFA World Cup. This group stage is a very, very good group stage, to get the guys warm, to get them, them impulse ready, to face off with some tough opposition team going up, the big Central American teams in the final round of the World Cup qualifier. And I must say, with Panama, face off with Panama in a group. Look, the last time they were in the Gold Cup, they went from the group stage, go all the way to the final. Yes, the last two tournaments Panama played, they are back-to-back finalists. And I must say, the last time they even played, they top their Gold Cup. They top their Gold Cup zone, are their group, whatever it is, they top their Gold Cup group. And it's not a fluke, and Panama is a team that, when I look at them, since I don't want to say when the last time we played them in the knockout round of the Gold Cup, when I think Darren Mattax scored that penalty and we beat them. I don't want to think about that, but I want to say, for probably 2022, I start to look at Panama team and look at where the Panama team was coming from. In 2019, this Panama team, not a lot of these players were playing, but back when the Blas Perez and all those players were playing, that Panama team failed to make it out of a group stage. Yes, they failed to make it out of a group stage, and then 2021 they went to the knockout round. 2023 they went straight to the final, and I'm using this Panamanian team since 2022 as a stepping stone to see where the Reggae Boyz team is at the moment. And Thomas Christiansen, I think when you look at a coach in this region, for the last 3 to 5 years, I think he's one of the most coach of where the Panamanian team is coming from. Look at how he developed a winning culture. Look at how he developed a team structure. A team. They played team game. They played everything as a team. They played as a very, very good unit. And they're going to give us problem. So I think with the favorites of this Group C, with the Reggae Boyz, Panama, and Guadeloupe, and also Guatemala, both teams, Panama and the Reggae Boyz, will be the top favorites to advance to the next round. And Guatemala, they deserve a shout. We played them the last time in the Gold Cup. Amari Bell beat them, and I must say that game in Cincinnati, they gave us a hell of a fight. They gave us a hell of a game in that World Cup, and they went from the group stage unbeaten. Yet I think they drew with Canada. I don't think they were in a zone with Canada, Qatar, and maybe Guadeloupe was in that zone as well. I'm not sure, but this is a team that's on the up. And they in our World Cup qualifier zone as well. We will play them before we play them in the group stage as well. Maybe again, in the final round we can go on to play another a Guatemala fixture again, with the Reggae Boyz. But looking at it, with a team, having that experience, having to know about that, what they did in the last Gold Cup, especially in the group stage, they went out of that group stage and beaten one of few teams alone, go straight through, to the knockout round and beaten, and Guatemala was one of that team. So they deserve a shout out, they deserve to be looked out for, and they have some good players. But look at it again, Guadeloupe. I think, look, this Guadeloupe team, you just don't know what you're going to get, to be honest. Back to back Guadeloupe team, this is what their third appearance, in the Gold Cup, and they made it, 2021, they made it 2023, they finished on 4 points in the last Gold Cup. So this team, I think they beat Cuba, and I think Guatemala beat them. I think they were in I just want to remember that at Guadeloupe, I think Guadeloupe was in that zone with Cuba, Canada, and another team, but they finished on 4 points in the last group stage, and they won a game and they drew a game with Canada. So that's a momentum, they building on something. This team again, it's like a Surinamese team. It's like what I must say, I think it's like a Saint Martin, teams with the heritage players just like the Reggae Boyz. They will give us a very, very, very hard time, and I must say, look, this is a very good warm-up zone. And if you look at where the Reggae Boyz, who they will play, if we get out of this zone, is it that we come out on top, is it that we finish second, it's going to be tough anywhere you look at it, So I just think I love this Gold Cup, I love the group stage, I think the groups are pretty much even different from the US zone, but I don't want to touch on that. I'm just focusing on the Reggae Boyz group C. But overall, when I look at it, if you ask me, farm to farm, head to head, I think I think between Reggae Boyz and the Panamanian team, it's all about who can score the most goal in this group stage. You know, I think both Reggae Boy and the Panamanian team, and I think when that fixture come about in the Gold Cup, I think I want to say it might go into, you know, a draw game, you know, maybe like a 1-1 or a 2-2. I don't see, you know, those two teams play and a goal, you know, one of those teams don't score a goal. But I just want to say, look, Reggae Boyz must go into this tournament. You know, I know all focus going into the summer and after the summer will be on the World Cup qualifier, but we want to go into this tournament and actually make a statement. You know, we went to a couple semi-final, you know, we went to, you know, back-to-back final, you know, so we want to make the next step. It's all about the next step for the boys, and it's all about the next step for this Panamanian team. You know, if you ask me, this is one of the most improved team in CONCACAF, to be honest. Yes, one of the most improved team, you know, in a longer stretch between, you know, the last 5 years. But if you ask me, maybe one of the most improved team over the last year, 18 months, maybe Canada with Jesse Marsh. You know what they did in that Copa America, you know, went from group stage, you know, took over, you know, probably less than 3 months before the Copa America started, and, you know, got them up there. So this Panama team is very good, you know, and I must say, you know, I look at them really, I look up to this team, you know, what they've been doing, you know, their groundwork, you know, their development, their preparation, you know, getting the best of the best coaching staff, you know, to help facilitate, you know, Thomas Christian. So, and, you know, it's up to all the Reggae Boyz will play, you know, the Guatemalan team, you know, Guatemala and Guadeloupe, they will bring a different side of two different games. You know, Guadeloupe with more of a low block, hit the Reggae Boyz and, you know, the counter in the transition. Meanwhile, Guatemala, you know, the possession base, you know, want to keep the football, you know, want to possess the ball more in the attacking third of our defensive third. So I mean, different, all three teams are different, if you ask me, in their different ways. Panama team is more of an explosive team. You know, they can play low block, they can play high intensity game, they can press, then they can go physical. So I think, you know, look at the three main, you know, aspect of playing a team, you know, physical, you know, technical, you know, low block, and, you know, etc. Whatever you can add to it, this Panama team can bring anything. You know, they are superb, just like the Reggae Boyz with physicality, you know, athleticism. You know, they are very quick. And look, it's like the same people. You know, we have so many heritage players that continue, you know, to play in this Panama team. So it's a tough zone. But I mean, let me know what you guys think, you know, about, you know, the group stage, you know, playing in Group C, you know, with Panama, Guadeloupe and Guatemala. You know, where you think the Reggae Boyz will finish in this zone. And I would love to hear you guys, you know, comment in the comment section to know what you guys think about what our chances is going into this World Cup in the summer. You know, probably I said half a year, it's less than half a year. You know, it's just a couple more months before the ball set to roll in the Gold Cup. So I mean, that's it, man. That's all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think about, you know, the Reggae Boyz chance, and, you know, where you think we will finish, you know, in the group alongside Panama, Guadeloupe and Guatemala. Yeah, bless up on yourself. Thanks for watching. This is Nicardo Media House. Ciao people, I'm out. Ciao, Aruva.